Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om. Shri Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om. Shri Ram, Jai Shri Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om. Shri Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om. Shri Ram, Shri Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om. Shri Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om. Shri Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om. Shri Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om. Shri Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om. Shri Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om. Shri Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om. Shri Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om. Shri Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om. Shri Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om. Shri Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om. Shri Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om. Shri Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om. Shri Ram, Jai 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 Ram Om. Hari Om Pranams. Om Shri Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Pranams to you all. The vision continues. Peace attained through akarma by Acharya Vinobhavi. Peace attained through akarma by Acharya Vinoba Bhave. A man is not like a lump of wet clay to which you can give any form you like. Man is not like a lump of wet clay to which you can give any form you like. He has a mind of his own, which must be receptive to assume that form. If there is no cooperation on the part of his mind, all efforts to educate him would be in vain. Cooperation of the mind is therefore extremely necessary irrespective of the means adopted. Cooperation of the mind is very much needed. So outward performance of Swadharma and the inward mental Vikarma, both are necessary. Outward performance of the Swadharma, the duty which we are assigned, and the inward mental Vikarma, both are necessary. Outward work is of course necessary. Outward work is of course necessary. The mind cannot otherwise be tested. If there is no outside work, how do we test our mind? In the stillness of early morning, we feel that in the stillness of the early morning, we feel that our minds have become calm. But the moment a child cries, we lose our calm and it becomes clear that the peace of mind is illusory. If we are doing something, meditation or reading something, if a child cries, we feel it is a disturbance, That means mind becoming calm is not the real thing. There is therefore no point in avoiding outward work. The true nature of our minds, the real quality of our minds is revealed through outward work. That is the reason outward work is needed. When outward work is there, we can test our mind. Water in a pond appears clear, but throw a stone in it and the dirt settled at the bottom will immediately rise up. That happens with our minds too. Suppose we go to a lake, water appears to be still, but when we throw a stone there in that water, the mud which was there to the bottom, all will come up. Same thing happens to the mind also. There are heaps of dirt at the bottom of the mind's lake. Mind also has got so much of dirt, so it will come out. They come to the surface when disturbed by an external agent. When a man gets angry, it is not that the anger comes from without. It was already there within him. Anger is not coming from outside. It is already there, so that is coming out. Otherwise, it could never have shown itself. Our action too talks. It proclaims whether we are given to selfishness or to anger or something else. Action is the mirror that reflects our true form. Action is the mirror, like a mirror. It reflects our true form, real thing. We should therefore be grateful to it. If the mirror shows that our face is unclean, would we smash the mirror? Would we smash the mirror? If the mirror shows that our face is unclean, would we smash the mirror? No. We would rather thank it and wash our face, because it has shown me, Likewise, should we avoid action because it reveals the dirt in our minds, our defects and weaknesses? Is the mind going to be pure simply by avoiding action? In fact, we should continue to act while trying continually for the purification of the mind. We should continue the work till our mind gets completely pure. All the dirt should go. A man living alone in a mountain cave, cut off from all human contact, may imagine that he has attained perfect peace of mind. But let him leave the cave and go for meals to somebody's house, and let a child playfully rattle the bolt of the door there. The innocent child may be absorbed in the music of that sound, but the rickles will find it jeering and curse the child in his mind. His stay in the isolated cave has made his mind too weak and oversensitive to stand even the slightest disturbance, because he was staying alone, solitude, no? So once he comes out, whatever little disturbance he will not be able to tolerate. His peace of mind may get disturbed by just a little rattling noise. It is not good that one's mind should be in such a weak state. To sum up, karma is very much needed to enable us to understand the state of our mind. So why we should do karma? Karma is needed to understand our mind. Otherwise, how will we know what is the state of mind? We can remove our defects only when we become aware of them. First, we should be aware of what all the defects we have in the mind. Then only we will be able to remove them. If we are not aware of them, all efforts for progress and growth will come to naught. It is while doing work that we become aware of our defects. Vikarma is then to be employed to get rid of those defects. With the ceaseless application of vikarma inwardly, we will gradually come to know how to remain detached while performing swadharma, how to remain beyond desires and positions, anger, greed, temptations and delusions. When there is a constant endeavor to purify karma, pure karma will follow naturally and effortlessly. When there is a constant endeavor to purify karma, pure karma will follow naturally and effortlessly. When detached and passionless action begins to take place, frequently and effortlessly, we would not even be aware of its occurrence. When karma becomes effortless and burdenless, it is transformed into akarma. When karma becomes effortless and burdenless, it is transformed into akarma. Akarma means effortless, burdenless, natural karma. Spontaneously it takes place. Then peace experienced through equanimity by Swami Chinmayananda. Peace experienced through equanimity by Swami Chinmayananda. He alone who with perfect self-control goes through life among the infinite number of sense objects, each impinging upon him and trying to bind him with its charm, approaches them with neither love nor hatred, comes to enjoy peace. By running away from the sense objects, nobody can assure for himself any inner peace. By running away from the sense objects, nobody can assure for himself any inner peace, because the inner disturbance depends not upon the presence or the absence of the sense objects in the outer world. The inner disturbance depends not upon the presence or the absence of the sense objects in the outer world. That has nothing to do. But essentially upon the mind's hesitations for procuring the desirable objects or for getting rid of the undesirable objects. But essentially upon the mind's hesitations for procuring the desirable objects. When we desire something, if we don't get it, hesitation will be there. Suppose some things which I want to get rid of it, if it is with me, then undesirable. I want to get rid of it. But a master of wisdom with perfect self-control moves among the objects of the world with neither any special love nor any particular aversion for them. For him it won't make any difference. He will be moving among the objects, sense objects. But nothing will affect him. Who? Master of wisdom, who is a gnani, who has attained the self-knowledge. But a master of wisdom with perfect self-control, all senses are under his control. Like Hanumanji, he went in search of Sita in the Lanka. So much of Aslilata was there for him, but nothing got affected because his mind, he asked the mind to search for Sita. It was only looking for Sita. It has not registered any other thing. He searched among those things only, all Asli. So all things will be there. But his mind is so trained. So his mind does what he says. Nothing happened, no? So he did not register anything. But a master of wisdom with perfect self-control moves among the objects of the world with neither any special love nor any particular aversion for them. Whenever I go, my shadow must play all round me according to the position of the light. Wherever I go, my shadow must play all round me according to the position of the light. But the shadow can neither entangle me with love, nor can it destroy me with hatred. Our shadow is there wherever we go. Will it disturb us? But the shadow can neither entangle me with love, nor can it destroy me with hatred. The outer world of objects is able to whip that man who lends the power to the objects to smother him. So unless I pay attention, that won't do anything. Supposing there is a lunatic who is whipping himself and weeping in pain, his sorrows can be ended only when he is persuaded not to take the whip in his hand. He could be advised, even if he kept the whip in his hand, not to swing his arms in the fashion in which he is doing. Similarly, here the mind woos the objects and gets beaten. It is told as an advice that an individual who lives in self-control will no longer lend his own life's dynamism to an object to persecute him through his own sentimental aversion to or love for that object. When the lunatic is taught not to wield the whip and strike himself, he is immediately saved from the sorrows of the whip. Similarly, when a mind is trained in these two aspects, what are they? To live in a self-control, number one, to move among the sense objects with neither an attachment for nor an aversion to them. The disturbances and hesitations in the mind caused by the sense enchantments are all immediately brought under control. This condition of the mind is called tranquility or peace. So, mind will not get any changes, inside the mind, movement will not be there. Whatever the way it is there, object doesn't matter. Sometimes we have that, if we are fully engaged, attention is on something. What is there around, we don't bother. So another example is shadow. Shadow won't get affected. No? Abidance in Peace by Nuchur Venkatraman. Tranquil mindedness is the goal of a sadhaka. Tranquil mindedness is the goal of a sadhaka. The mind must somehow become peaceful. Peace is the very nature of the self. It is the mind that clouds over that peace. Peace is our true nature, but covered by these mind problems. Mind. It is the mind that clouds over that peace. When the mind becomes quiet, peace is uncovered. When the mind becomes quiet, peace is uncovered. A mind free of sensory cravings is pleasant and glides easily into the beyond. A mind free of sensory cravings. Vishayasakti. A mind free of sensory cravings is pleasant and glides easily into the beyond. It quickly reposes in the self. To attain the supreme realization, we need not run away from the sensory objects. What needs to be done is to train ourselves to live our life without attachments or aversion. Instead of avoiding, have everything, but move about without attachment or aversion to them. It may be family, it may be any object, it may be wealth, it may be anything. The problem is, some people we like, some people we don't like. Something we like, something we don't like, then problem comes. Mind is disturbed. To attain the supreme realization, we need not run away from the sensory objects. Sensory objects will be all around. What needs to be done is to train ourselves. So mind need to be trained to pick up a skill and technique not to get aversion or attachment. What needs to be done is to train ourselves to live our life without attachments or aversion. We should habituate the mind to remain in yoga. Yoga means union with God. Even while working in the world. This is the way. Such a one will have the feeling of fulfillment, blessedness, and the feeling that whatever had to be done is done. So, getting connected with the Lord, Nirantara Namasmarana Papa gives. If we are connected with the Lord, even while working, throughout our waking state, then we don't get affected. Mind will be calm and quiet. Like the infinite space, that mind abides as the self. Like the infinite space, that mind abides as the self. When the seeker recognizes his self, he comes to know that he is bodiless, mindless, egoless. He is the immeasurable. Like space, no, how it is, everywhere it is there, no. Same way like a self, no, I am also there everywhere in everything. Then once we come to know that, then we are bodiless, mindless, egoless, and we are immeasurable. Only when the limitations are gone, suffering ends. Only the limitations are gone, then only suffering ends. Only when the limitations are gone, suffering ends. Fulfillment is possible only in the infinite. When you do not see the other, it is infinite. You and me not separate. Same power is there in everybody, in everything. Same self is expressing through all names and forms. Now present problem is we feel we are separate from the rest of the creation. They are other. I am separate. You are separate. That feeling. When you do not see the other, it is infinite. There is no other. One power is expressing. When you see the other, it is finite, pettiness, death. Say that Shruti. When the mind is filled with thoughts, we fail to recognize the substratum. So, when mind is with full of thoughts, it is difficult to recognize that one power, one space is there everywhere. When the mind is filled with thoughts, we fail to recognize the substratum. When the mind becomes peaceful, the I is no more localized. It is no more the limited ego. It reveals itself as the supreme Ishvara, that is supreme abidance. When the mind becomes peaceful, the I is no more localized. That is all pervading I. I means the self, that power. It is no more the limited ego. Then it is not a limited ego. It is expansiveness. It reveals itself as the supreme Ishvara, that is supreme abidance. Until one attains the state of complete cessation of sorrow and feels the blessed state of peace, the spiritual journey has not reached its conclusion. Until one attains the state of complete cessation of sorrow, no sorrow should be there, and feels the blessed state of peace, the spiritual journey has not reached its conclusion. As long as even a trace of the ego remains, spiritual practices are necessary. As long as even a trace of the ego remains, spiritual practices are necessary. When the ego is extinguished completely, the sadhaka disappears, and that is nirvana. There is no sadhaka to do any sadhana. He disappears. When the ego is completely gone, no? That time there is no sadhaka left. That is called nirvana. That is the supreme state of abidance of the self. So the cosmic vision held out in the Gita alone can enable you to attain universal love. The vision or love grants you never fading joy and peace. Swami Ramdas. These are Papa's words. Next is Peace by Swami Shivananda. Perfect security and full peace cannot be had in this world because this is a relative plane. All objects are conditioned in time, space and causation. They are perishable. Where then can you look for full security and perfect peace? You can find this in the immortal self. Outside world, it is not possible. He is an embodiment of peace. He is beyond time, space and causation. That immortal self is an embodiment of peace. He is beyond time, space and causation. Real, deeper peace is independent of external conditions. Real, deeper peace is independent of external conditions. Real abiding peace is stupendous stillness of the immortal soul within. If you can rest in this ocean of peace, all the usual noises of the world can hardly affect you. If you enter the silence or the wonderful calm of divine peace by stilling the bubbling mind and restraining the thoughts and withdrawing the outgoing senses, all disturbing noises will die away. Motor cars may roll on the streets, boys may shout at the pitch of their voices, railway trains may run in front of your house, several mills may be working in your neighborhood, and yet all these noises will not disturb you even a bit. Dear children, the two birds. When we turn our gaze from the world to God, we grow into His likeness and become one with Him. Otherwise, we are subject to all kinds of anxiety and miseries. Here is an example. On a tree were two birds. There are two birds in a branch of the tree. One was seated on the topmost branch of the tree. One bird is seated on the top of the branch of the tree. Still, calm, serene and peaceful. The bird is who is seated in the top of the branch of the tree is so peaceful, still, calm, quiet. The other bird on the lower branch was hopping from branch to branch in pursuit of the fruits of the tree. It is going on branch to branch to find the fruits of the tree. It would once eat sweet fruit and feel happy, and at another time eat raw or sour fruit and feel unhappy. It was restless and running about continuously for objects that yielded it momentary joy and grief. At last, it aspired to achieve a peace and joy which never changes. Then finally it got fed up. Grief and sorrow, joy and grief are going on. So it has decided. At last, it aspired to achieve a peace and joy which never changes. So it turned its gaze upward in search of that blessed state. Looked at the up. It now saw the bird on the uppermost branch seated in a state of perfect joy and peace. That very instant, the bird of the lower branch vanished, and now there was only the one on the top branch. The lower one had become one with it. When we turn our gaze towards God, no? When we aspire for God, they are not interested in the world and worldly objects. So we also become one with the Lord. Epistles of Swami Ramdas. Beloved Ram, when the name begins to work in the mind, automatically peace settles upon it. When the name begins to work in the mind, automatically peace settles upon it. All actions proceeding from this calm state of mind become naturally pure and therefore beneficent. A constant watch upon our actions is still necessary, lest we might do such acts as would throw us into forgetfulness of God. Let us not fret over situations that God has given us. It is a mistake to think that by mere change of situation or activity we can attain to peace. Ramdas, by his will, now stays in a newly built ashram called Anandashram. As usual, Ramdas is swimming in a veritable ocean of love and joy. His kindness and love are boundless. In memoriam, Srimati Prema Kumari, aged 73, an ardent devotee of the ashram from Bangalore, who was mother of Shruti, an inmate of the ashram, and the wife of Sri S.N. Range Gowda, was called by beloved Papa on the 21st April 2023. Srimati V.V. Tailambal, aged 87, an inmate of the ashram since almost 2 decades, was also called by beloved Papa on the 5th of May 2023. We pray for beloved Papa's blessings on the dear departed souls for eternal rest and peace at his lotus feet. Anandashram News, 15,500 crore Nama Japa Yajna for world peace. The total japa received in the third round of 15,500 crore Nama Japa Yajna for world peace in the month of April is 200 crores. The grand total of the japa done so far in this round now stands at 15,276 crores. Papa's words: True, it is that until a man or a woman has found in his or her heart the beloved Lord of the universe, there can be no real peace and liberation for the struggling soul. Swami Ramdas. Homage to Pujya Swami Suddhananji. This is June month thing. The month of June reminds us of the Samadhi of our dear Swami Suddhananji, who will always be remembered for his childlike nature, innocence, simplicity, and straightforwardness. Swami Suddhananji, through his very life, has taught us that while carrying on with the devotional practices and selfless service, one can always lead an innocent and simple life. While remembering him on the 2nd of June 2023, his Samadhi day, let us try to emulate these noble qualities that he epitomized. Thought for the month. The peace you crave for is ever within you. If you seek for it without, you will never have it anywhere. This is a great truth which very few realize. This is how the vision, June 2023. We have completed the reading. So what mainly this vision contains is, this month is peace, about the peace. So we should remember peace is our inherent nature. So we don't have to attain. What we have to do is, we have to remove what all is covered by that. So mainly mind needs to be trained. Mind is the veil, cloud. So we need to train our mind. So peace slokas we have read. So we will try to see the slokas. Not slokas. First thing is points from the chapter wise, okay? Then slokas, peace, on peace. What are the slokas? Chapter number 2, sloka number 64. Chapter number 2. Sloka number 64. We'll read from Swami Ranganathanandaji, 64th sloka. रागद्वेषवियुक्तैस्तु विषयानीन्द्रियैश्चरन् आत्मवैश्यर्विधेयात्मा prasadhamadigaccati. This is the sloka. This is Ranganathanan Swamiji's commentary, sloka number 64. But the self-controlled person, moving among sense objects, with the senses under one's restraint and free from attraction and aversion, attains to tranquility. The Gita does not want us to leave the sensory world and go to lead an ascetic life in some corner. Not at all. Live in the world. Live in the midst of sensory objects. There is no harm. But do something to strengthen yourself against the energies that have the tendency to pull you down. So we need to train our mind. It's not that we avoid. The Gita does not want us to leave the sensory world and go to lead an ascetic life in some corner. Not at all. Live in the world. Live in the midst of sensory objects. There is no harm, but do something to strengthen yourself against the energies that have the tendency to pull you down. So, raga dvesha viyuktaistu. When you give up raga and dvesha, attachment and aversion, then what happens? With your sensory system moving freely among sensory objects, one second, sloka vayni. 64. There is no harm, but do something to strengthen yourself against the energies that have tendency to pull you down. So, raga dvesha viyuktaistu. When you give up raga and dvesha, attachment and aversion, vishayanindriyaicharan. With your sensory system moving freely among sensory objects, Charan means moving about freely. But Atma Vaisyarvi Dheyatma. Atma Vaisarya. By one who is self-possessed. Vidheyatma. A person who has achieved self-mastery. Such a person, prasada madhigacchati, attains real peace, tranquility, serenity. The calm, joyous, free state of mind is called prasada. The calm, joyous, free state of mind is called prasada. Such a person attains to tranquility. Prasadam adhigacchati. When you get prasada of the mind, what happens to you? Today we speak of quality of life. That qualitative enhancement of life comes to you at that stage. This is how Swamiji puts it. So when we control our sensory objects, we need not avoid any sensory objects. We should train our mind and strengthen that. The Gita does not want us to leave the sensory world and go to lead a ascetic life in some corner. Not at all. Live in the world. Live in the midst of sensory objects. There is no harm, but do something to strengthen yourself against the energies that have the tendency to pull you down. So, raga dvesha viyuktaistu. When you give up raga and dvesha, attachment and aversion need to be given up. If we have attachment and aversion, then that becomes a problem. So, sense objects are not the problem. Getting attached to it, having aversion towards it is the problem. So, for that we need to train our mind. Then next sloka is 65. Prasade sarva dukkhanam hanirasyopajayate prasanna chetaso hyashu buddhi paryavatishthate. So, 65th sloka, he says, in tranquility, all sorrows are destroyed. For the intellect of one who is tranquil minded is soon established in firmness. When prasada or tranquility comes, all sorrows are destroyed. Sarva dukkhana hani. I have seen even in ordinary people this steady buddhi in the presence of temptation. In the Ramakrishna Mission Institute of Culture in Calcutta, when I was secretary there in the 1960s. This is about Swami Ranganathananda, his experience he is sharing. 1960s, a person living in our international house lost a purse of 10,000 rupees, or rather left it in the room along with his air ticket and passport, and went away to Delhi. Going there, he found everything gone. Then he phoned to me at Calcutta. What happened? The worker who looks after the room found all this lying there. A purse of 10,000 rupees and the tickets. See the greatness of that employee who was getting a small salary of about rupees 700 a month, yet he quietly brought these to the office. This person has suffered, he has left it, and you must restore it to him. He could have easily taken that money. He also was in need, but no, he had another way of looking the things. Such a way of looking at things is getting less and less. What is the cause? The sensory system is very, very powerful, and the controlling buddhi is weak. The capacity to feel and respond to another person's problem as one's own is a spiritual capacity. He could have easily grabbed that money, no? Nobody will ask him. But no. He was in need also. He was getting very less salary, but not tempted at all. So ordinary people also, they could have that strength. That capacity can come to all people, but sometimes the high in society may not have it. In India, we have now two types of poor people. The poor and the poverty stricken, namely the rich. The latter have much, but they always want and seek more and more through corrupt practices. They cannot manifest this buddhi, which is a spiritual quality and does not depend upon social status. Any human being can achieve this quality. So prasada, so prasanna chetaso hyasu buddhihi, prasanna chetaso hyasu buddhihi paryavatishtate. The buddhi of a person with a tranquil mind soon becomes steady. This is the important statement in this section. Verse 64-65 go together. When we now go to verse 67, we will find the opposite of it. When this quality of Atma Vaisyaha Vidheyatma is not there, people collapse morally. In these matters, each one must help oneself. These are all human achievements. Instead of striving for going to an unknown heaven in the sky, why not be a decent human being here on earth and realize the infinite Atman hidden within you? Don't be a creature, be free is the supreme message of Vedanta to all humanity. In several verses, this is stressed again and again. This discipline at the sensory level is what makes for yoga. Remaining at the stage of sense pleasure makes for bhoga. Yoga and bhoga. This discipline at the sensory level is what makes for yoga. Remaining at the stage of sense pleasure makes for bhoga. We all begin with bhoga, but Vedanta and the science of human possibilities tells us not to continue at the bhoga level all the time. It tells humanity to rise slowly to the yoga level. From bhoga level to yoga level, we need to rise. Sri Ramakrishna puts the subject in a beautiful way. If you don't rise from bhoga to yoga, you will be in roga. If you don't rise from bhoga to yoga, you will be in roga. So we need to rise. That is, all sorts of mental and nervous elements and social tensions will come to you. He also speaks of 3 levels of ananda or bliss available to all. Vishayananda, that is sensual joy. Bhajanananda, joy arising from singing hymns and bhajans. And Brahmananda, joy arising from realizing our infinite and immortal nature as Brahman. So march on, don't stay at the sensory level. The child lives entirely at the sensory level, but as it grows older, it can get intimations of something higher. Let me go towards that. That means a little discipline of the sensory system. Even to become a law-abiding citizen, you need a little control of the sensory system. Even to be a member of a healthy society, you need a little control over the sensory system. This is what is insisted upon by the Gita, not as an end in itself. In the very first sloka in this section, when Sri Krishna started expounding the nature of the Sthita Prajna, he said that it is not that you drive away all sensory attractions and make the mind empty. That does not make a man a Sthita Prajna. Mind must also be yoked to the Atman that is within. Realize your own infinite nature beyond the sensory level. Then he or she is Sthita Prajna. A mere negative ascetic attitude is never respected nor presented in Vedanta literature. It must be something which gives you joy. If the sensory system gives you joy, what lies above the sensory system will give you 1,000,000 times more joy. That is the language used in the Upanishads. In the Taittiriya Upanishad, while discussing the subject of inquiry into the nature of bliss, it is said that joys of men on earth, gods in heaven, and every other type of joy are only a fraction of the joy of the Atman, the infinite nature of one and all. And therefore, these 2 verses given us the freedom to live in this world, to work in this world, and to enjoy bliss in this world at various levels. The Gita stresses that point. So beautiful explanation about this sloka. So we should rise from bhoga level to yoga level, otherwise we will have roga. It is possible because people we see, small, wage earners. So many incidents are there like that. They are very, very, very sincere. Many times happens in ashram also. Many workers, sometimes what they see, they just get it and then give it. Any type of items. Then it is kept in the bhajan hall. Then people will take whosoever it is. Many times it happens. So that is what Swamiji says, lower level people, they develop this quality, some poor people. Though need is there, but still they are contented. One lottery, Swamiji always shares nearby only. That person also we had come here, Sudhakarji, his name. He has a small shop. He sells lottery tickets. So he has girl children also. Family is there to look after. One day, one person, so many people buy the tickets, So one man rang up and told, you take a ticket and keep it for me. When I come that side, I will give you the money. Lottery ticket. So he just took it and put it in his drawer. So next day when it was checked, that ticket has got lottery, 1 crore or something. And the person who told him to take a ticket and give, he doesn't know what number also, which ticket, nothing. But this man rang up and told him, the ticket which I kept for you, you got the lottery, 1 crore. He was shocked, that person was shocked. If he wants, he can easily say no. He was wondered, then he asked, then he said his father told him, it seems, what is there with you is yours. It is given by God, that is yours. Others' thing is not yours. You should not aspire for others' thing. You should not be contented. So he told, it seems you take something. He said, no, I don't need it. I don't want it. He came, paid that money for the ticket, and he got 1 crore rupees. He was awarded also. The person came here also, we saw. He had a dependent girl, children, big family, very poor man. But still, see the honesty, sensory control. He is not tempted, no? He is not at all tempted. Like that, many people will be there. They are silently doing. So it is possible for us also to have the control. We'll continue tomorrow. 64 and 65 we have read today. So to have peace, we need sensory control. We should not get tempted. Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai. Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om Shri Ram. Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. Hari Om Pranams.